boarding house. Everything was about 7 or 8 or 10 blocks. A small place. On April 13, Grant came back to Washington. Interesting little tidbit about that. He came and didn't have a room at the Village Hotel, the most famous hotel. It was filled. They said, we don't have room, but okay, on U.S. Grant. Oh, well, we can take care of that. So they found him a room. But the other interesting thing is he walked to the White House, which is about 7 blocks, in a private uniform, unrecognized, until about halfway there, and people recognized who he was. Typical U.S. Grant. And finally arranged to get a carriage and to get some soldiers to guard him. He's all by himself, unguarded. When he came to the White House, Lincoln was very cheerful. They had a cabinet meeting. That's why Grant came. Lincoln invited him and his wife Julia to come to the theater with him that night. By the way, I said Lincoln was well protected. When Grant got to the White House, there were 2 soldiers at the gate. There were 2 inside the White House. One at the door of the cabinet room, and as well as the municipal police. That same day, Lincoln decided to go to the play. And in the morning, he sent an aide to Ford's Theater to say, Mrs. Lincoln and I and Mr. and Mrs. Grant will be attending. So Ford's printed circulars, had them all over town, and Lincoln continued his meeting with Grant. But they declined, mainly because Julia hated Mary Lincoln and wouldn't go under any circumstances. Besides, they wanted to visit children in New Jersey. So right after the cabinet meeting, they left on a train to go to New Jersey. Another interesting irony, Booth that morning, 14th, was busy. I mean, he had breakfast, a lady friend, he had rented a horse, visited the theaters, Grover's Theater. He went to Ford's Theater where he collected his mail. Interestingly, guess what happened when he collected his mail? He hears Lincoln's aide announce that we're going to come to the theater tonight. He overheard secondly. And of course, that sparked the thing in his mind. So he immediately, and this was in the morning of the assassination, decided what he has to do. So he called his gang together at the Surratt house, and also been in one of the hotels, to plan and to, instead of kidnapping Lincoln, we're going to kill him, or I'm going to kill him. It's amazing to me that you can do that on the spur of the moment, just knowing a few hours ahead of time. He also that day wrote a letter to the newspaper, gave it to a friend to mail for him the next day, outlining everything he did and was going to do. He also left a calling card at another hotel for Andrew Johnson, Vice President. Just left a calling card. As he left his rooming house or his hotel, one of the clerks asked him if he was going to the play tonight. He said, yes, there will be some splendid acting tonight. But he quickly put this plan together, and including allowing a man to hold his horse. In addition to that, they changed the plan a little bit, again, on the spur of the moment, regarding Andrew Johnson, Seward, Edmund Stanton, who also all told Lincoln, don't go to the theater, take a guard, always be protected. Next slide. That's a picture of Ford's Theater, where Booth got his information. Next one. It's a picture of William Crooks, not famous in history, but he was a guy from the Metropolitan Police that was in charge of the detail that was at the White House guarding Lincoln. Like I said, there were 4 people. He was there until 4 o'clock or so, and his replacement was John Parker. And this will become important later on. John Parker was supposed to come there and relieve him about 4 o'clock, and of course he was late. He had a history of being tardy. He was a troublemaker, he was a drunk, and disorderly. He had been reprimanded many times, but never fired. And Crooks was always puzzled how the guy got the job. There was no room in the carriage for the people going to Ford's Theater. It was Lincoln and Mary, and they picked up Major Matt Bowen and Clara Harris, as the people finally agreed to go with them. So Parker had to walk to the theater 7 blocks and meet the carriage. A picture of the estate box. That's the estate box at the Ford's Theater. The theater management had to scurry around, hustle around to decorate it, to put a partition in enlarging it. Also getting furniture, well, Lincoln's favorite chair, all on the spur of the moment because he was had short notice. The guard that was supposed to guard him, Parker, escorted them to the estate box on the 2nd floor. They went down a narrow hallway. There's a door at the entry to that hall. Then they went down to the estate box. Parker was, after he escorted them, was to sit at the end of the hall by the door and the chair and guard, and not allow anyone in. But guess what? Besides being a troublemaker and not very reliable, he got bored. Couldn't see the play. He also got thirsty. So we decided to go have a drink at the tavern next door. So we went to find the carriage driver who brought Lincoln to the theater, see if they could have a drink. So they went to have a drink in the tavern right next door. But later, Ford was the driver, tired of the conversation, so he went back up and he sat in the chair by the door, but he was not the guard, he was just sitting there. In the meantime, Booth had his horse, he left it behind the theater, arranged for a guy to hold his horse. He greets the stage crew. And there's a tunnel under the stage. So he goes under the stage, over to the other side where the presidential box is. And this is before Lincoln gets there. He checked it out, he went up and bored a hole on the wall, found a stick and sent it from a music stand, and put it behind the door so he could lock the door. But he needed a drink too, so he went next door, guess where he went? Next door. And he's drinking in the same room with the guy who was the guy. But they didn't know each other apparently. But then he went back to Ford's Theater in front and to the box office, and of course everybody knew this actor, John Lewis. And as a professional courtesy, they allowed him to take that ticket. And one of them said, well, I wonder what John's up to tonight. Well, it's just John being John. So he goes to the door. There's a door by the stage on the right side. And there's some stairs there. He goes up the stairs to the second floor, the dress circle. And Forbes, who's the carriage driver, not a cop, he's sitting in his room. He's impressed by this celebrity who will talk to him, this famous actor. So he lets him in. Too good of him. Let me skip to another point. At the same time, his compatriots were busy. George Ostrout was drinking at the Kirkwood House. Ironically, the same hotel where Andrew Johnson resided. And his task and his job was to kill Andrew Johnson. But he gets a little nervous. He's also drunk. It's only a block from Ford's Theater, 7 blocks on White House. He's alone in his room upstairs. He gets drunk. He flees north. He pulls his gun and takes off. So that didn't happen. Andrew Johnson's all alone in his room. At the same time, the real other tragedy this night was at the Seward home, Secretary of State's home. He had been in a carriage accident a week before and was in a cast from his shoulders on down. Almost a fatal carriage accident. He's at home with his daughter, with his son, and military officer. Bruce Payne and Powell and David Earle were assigned to go kill him. They brought along a bottle claiming it was medication for the soup. But the son died, and the doctor got here and said, nobody's here. He was just here an hour ago, nobody's to see him. So he attacks the soldier, he attacks the son, beat him with a pistol so bad that he broke the handle off the pistol. got in the room, again, Seward's in the cast, almost from neck on down to his waist. Got on the bed and stabbed him with a knife a number of times. Sliced his right side of his face so bad that it laid open his cheeks. And the man's, of course, in bed, unable to resist. Knocked out the daughter with the knife handle. And then he fled. And he's screaming while he fled, "I'm mad, I'm mad, I'm mad." Seward lived. But the rest of his life, he never had a photograph taken from the right side. He so did fit this figure. And he should have died. Anyway, at the same time, Booth had planned this so meticulously that he said that all this has to happen at 10:15. You have to attack Seward, you have to shoot Andrew Johnson, and I'm going to attack Lincoln at 10:15. The reason he picked that is because there's a funny line in the play called Our American Cousin, starring Laura King. Funny line is, "You old sockdologizing old man trap." I don't know why that's funny, but apparently that was the key line in the play. And she went on stage. Next slide, Debbie. That's a picture of the box. Lincoln sitting in this rocking chair that they found and they used just for him. Mary's in the chair. Major Bathbone and Clara Harris are on the couch with him. Booth comes in, uses the stick that he has and puts it and blocks the door. And walks up behind Lincoln with the Derringer. Have that next picture Single shot, find it, large bullet, shot him behind the left ear, 4 feet from him or less. Lincoln slumped forward. No one for sure what happened, except Mary screamed. The Major Rathbone jumped up to grab Booth. He had a 6-inch knife, he sliced his arm so bad he cut an artery, or he cut a lot, so he bled a lot, and yelled, "Freedom!" Then he jumped out of the box. It was 12 feet to the stage. The box is almost on the stage, it's just stage left. Jumped about 12 feet. He caught his spur in the flag or the bunting on the front of the box. Landed awkwardly and broke his left leg. And then yelled, "Sic semper tyrannis." Always, such always to tyrants. A line from a play. But he had his dream. He was on stage. Everybody had seen him. He had his horse being held outside. Got on his horse, headed towards Maryland. One bridge that went into Maryland was the Navy Yard Bridge. All bridges were guarded by soldiers. And the military rule was, the military order was, nobody crosses the bridge, nobody comes in or out after 9 p.m. He gets to the bridge, guard stops him. He's a charmer. Charmed the guy, talked to him, this famous actor. Said, "Well, I waited until moonlight so I could see him on the way home. I needed to wait. And I needed to get home," so they let him go. The others were supposed to be behind him. David Harrell was the one that made it. He had the same experience. He got to the bridge, the guard stopped him, charmed his way through. He needed for Booth, so the guard let him through also. Some more ironies in hell. They rode most of the night. They went to first at Stewart's Tavern, Surratt, owned a tavern before she moved to Washington, and she had stored weapons and other things for Booth and the gang. So they stopped there to pick up weapons and things. Then they kept riding for about 60 miles. But Booth is in real pain. They got to Dr. Mudd's, who didn't know them. They cut off his boot and set a splint on the leg, very painful. But let him stay for a couple days while Booth was sort of recovering. During that time, Lincoln, of course, had died on the 15th of April. About this time, the Secretary of War had called out the Army. People recognized Bruce who had searched his room. They go to Surratt's house, and they got a lot of evidence. So they kind of knew where the guys had taken off to into Maryland, which was logical. There's a lot of Southern sympathizers, and then on their way to Virginia. The plan for Booth was then to go to Kentucky to get out of the South entirely. Interesting, after they got to Dr. Mudd's house, they got nervous about it, said they can't stay there. And in the meantime, the Secretary of War had hired Lafayette Baker. See if that's the next picture. First is we can enlarge that. This is about the escape route from Washington, D.C.